Donald Trump is showing the extent to which he does not really care about what normal human beings think or normal human beings care about, because he has picked a person who is not only a climate denier, climate change denier, but a person who is actively fighting against the EPA to serve as the director of the EPA. Scott Pruitt, I believe, is his name, and his picture is on your screen. Donald Trump has essentially, well, it hasn't been officially announced. To be fair to Donald Trump, it hasn't, at least as I was gathering information on this, it wasn't officially announced, but it has been alluded to by all the major news media outlets. And so it looks like Scott Pruitt, who is currently the Attorney General of Oklahoma, is going to be his pick to lead the EPA. He's involved in several court disputes with the Obama administration regarding the EPA's regulation of oil and gas. He's spoken out vehemently against the EPA. He is a climate denier. And so Donald Trump said, this is the perfect guy to lead the EPA. Now, this is in the backdrop of two things, right? He met with Al Gore. And if there's anyone there's a lot of stuff that Al Gore did wrong, in my opinion, in my estimation. But what Al Gore got right was his vigorous approach towards climate change. And so Donald Trump met with Al Gore, and, we don't know. I guess maybe it was for, who knows what the hell it was for. Maybe it was just for shits and giggles, because you can't meet with Al Gore and throw a signal to the world that maybe I'm going to be reasonable on climate change, only to turn around and pick Scott Pruitt, who is just essentially the worst person he could possibly pick to serve, to lead the EPA. Not only that, this comes in the backdrop of Ivanka Trump stating that one of her signature issues while she's in the White House is going to be, not in the White House, but in proximity to the White House, will be climate change. Mind you, she didn't really state whether or not she was going to be on the side of science and climate change, or was she going to take up the charge to fight back against the science of climate change? They didn't really distinguish that, but you could almost assume, if it wasn't the Trumps, that a person who says that they're going to take up the mantle of climate change, they're going to fight on behalf of halting climate change. But the Trumps are not without surprise. So in the backdrop of him meeting with Al Gore and Ivanka saying that she's going to focus on climate change, he picked Scott Pruitt, who is involved in a coalition of states attorneys who are suing the EPA's Clean Power Plan. Say that 3 times fast. The EPA's Clean Power Plan. This is one of Obama's signature policies that he set forth, aimed at reducing the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions from the electricity sector. Scott Pruitt is on record of attacking the environmental protection that the EPA is charged with enforcing. Right. So he's on record for opposing what the EPA actually does. And this is who Donald Trump has picked to lead the EPA. Now, I'm not saying this out of shock. I'm not saying this out of alarm. I'm just reporting the news, to be honest with you, because I fully expect Donald Trump to subvert every positive step that we've made in the right direction. I made that estimation during the primaries, during the general election, and I had under no disillusionment, under no illusion that Donald Trump was going to be the lesser of two evils or even an equal evil. Donald Trump is going to show exactly how much of a greater evil he is on climate change, on the environment in general, on tax policy, on regulations, on social issues. He is picking a cabinet that's going to do exactly what he talked about during the campaign, and he is going to show you exactly how much of a greater evil he really is. But I'm not here to lecture just yet. In a few minutes, I'll lecture. So Pruitt also boasts of being a leading advocate against the EPA's activist agenda. This is a quote. This is a quote from his LinkedIn page. Like, this imbecile is proud to be a know-nothing, right? He's proud to be a science denier. He's proud to wear the badge of imbecile. And this is going to lead our EPA. I don't, there's a place. I mean, there's clearly a place for dumb people in America, and that's in Donald Trump's administration. Somebody tweet me on that so I can retweet. There is a place for dumb people in America, and they belong in the Donald Trump administration, or at least they're gravitating towards the Donald Trump administration. Because who puts it out? I mean, clearly, Republicans. They put it out there that they are, they try to make this a wash. They try to make climate change a debate as if there's two sides of the equation. And by doing that, they can stifle or at least delay any progress that would hinder or challenge or threaten the energy sector's profits. That's it. That's all. They're 100%. I'm sure all of them are 100% fully aware of what's happening in our climate. They don't give a shit. They don't care because they figure like Gary Johnson figures that global warming, well, the sun is going to expand in its red giant phase and encompass the planet. So that's global warming. So anyway, this is like the third of Trump's appointees who have like serious philosophical differences with the mission of the agency that they've been appointed to. Right? So Scott Pruitt is a climate denier who's at war with the EPA. He's our pick for the EPA. Ben Carson, who's been named to be the department, to head the Department of Housing and Urban Development, has expressed his deep aversion to the social safety net programs, his aversion to fair housing, initiatives. He's the perfect person to undermine everything that HUD does. And you can't call him a racist for putting, what percentage of African Americans are living in housing projects. I got quite a few cousins. Right? So you put a black person over it, then you can get away with anything, right? Just gut the whole thing because you can't ever say that they're racist because they're black. The greatest tools of white supremacy, the greatest tools of the oppressor has always been people with marginalized identities, whether they're black, whether they're LGBTQ, they are the most efficient tool of the oppressor. So Donald Trump picks somebody who clearly hates and has animosity towards the safety net and housing projects, not because he looks at them and says, we need to do this better. He looks at this and says, put them fuckers on the street. So that's two. And then Betsy DeVos, or DeVos, sounds a lot like Devros. Points if you already know who Devros is. Named to be the education secretary, she has a passion for private school vouchers and for charter school vouchers. And she has made a career of undercutting the public school system. So who better to put over the Department of Education than somebody who wants to gut the Department of Education? I am going to lecture here for a second because I have to. The next time somebody tells you to reject the lesser evils, show them exactly what Donald Trump is getting ready to do. Well, hell, we're going to have 4 years of seeing it. So just wait a minute. Don't show them yet. Show them in about 2.5 years when all this stuff takes place and see how they're feeling about whether or not there really is a such thing as a lesser evils. That's been my story all through the primaries, all through the general election. I'm sticking with it right now. Donald Trump is a moron. Donald Trump is dangerous. Donald Trump is appointing the absolute worst people to lead these agencies. And the only thing we can hope for is for his administration to collapse underneath the pressure of its own ignorance and bigotry.